This episode is the bookend of our Roompact 2023 summer intern. We are recording this July 18th, which I believe is kind of right at the tail end of Kassidy's time working with Roompact. So we're going to get a little bit of a epilogue, reflection, kind of hindsight into her experience and looking ahead at what's next for her. So definitely, this episode I feel like isn't as maybe as impactful if you haven't listened to that previous episode introducing Kassidy. So that episode was recorded as we're sitting here today about 2 months ago, and was just looking ahead to what Kassidy's experience would be like this summer. So definitely go check that one out. Hit pause, go listen, come back. We'll jump right into it because yeah, I'm not sure, I guess, exactly how many days you have left, how much you might be wrapping up and everything. But we'll start with just sort of, enlightening folks who are listening and watching. What projects have you been working on this summer, just to sort of make sure we kind of get that context?
First of all, I cannot believe how fast time has flown by through this experience. It's been absolutely wonderful working with Roompact. But in terms of my big summer project, I've been focusing on developing curriculum that's accessible for RAs so that the RAs that are using Roompact and even maybe institutions that don't use Roompact, specifically RAs at those institutions, will be able to log in, go to the Roompact curriculum, RA curriculum, student development page, and essentially engage in their own development processes. And so there's been a lot of intentionality on the semester system versus the quarter system and when RAs start, when classes start. But essentially, I have tried to create a timeline in which if I were to put my RA hat on, like what am I going through starting, mid-August, early September, all the way to December in terms of my development. So we're looking at things like identifying what your why is. We hear that a lot in the field. Communication skills, customer service, conflict management, getting to know your team, the department that you work for. And essentially, my role has been like, how do I create engaging content, engaging blog posts, engaging reflections so that RAs will sit down, take a look at their phone, their computer, their devices that gives them access to Roompact and want to engage in like reflective activities. So it's been a bit of a learning curve because I've had my academic hat on for a while. So, working with Paul, the beginning there for a while, I think my writing was a bit dry. And so you'll see once these come out, I've tried to engage in the more human side of Kassidy using narratives that like I've experienced or analogies that are relatable to everyone so that if I was an RA who, is sitting through hours worth of training or I'm getting stressed out because I have to manage a roommate conflict, like I would still be interested in learning from this content and taking it in. So there's a variety of like reflection questions, engaging in activities with your partners. Right now, I'm trying to make sure that I end the summer with at least a few of the RA developments being paired with the professional developments. So a pro staff member will be able to say, hey, RAs, do this self-development. And then when you come to staff meeting, we're going to have a paired development for like, your leadership skills, developing your leadership skills. So that can also help our professional staff members and such as they're creating their team. So it's really been a hardcore creativity project that honestly has been filling my bucket, being able to kind of step out of that academic arena and head back into what's the advice that I wish that I had, or the support that I wish I had, or the reflection questions that I wish I had when I was an RA.
I guess, do you envision that being like a companion workbook? Am I kind of understanding maybe the point of view of that? Because it's like you're not trying to like write the textbook that is the basis for all RA training. It's like presuming perhaps like you said, like that sort of deluge of the fire hose of content that maybe an RA is getting in training. This is sort of helping them to connect those dots and sort of process, reflect, and all that. Is that correct?
A little bit. It's not necessarily focused on training. I'm not trying to rewrite the training processes. Though that would be a whole other project in terms of changing like that fire hose of information that RAs get. But it is more of a like semester long or yearly long um, continuation of development of skills. So think of, I'm a professional staff member, I'm supervising 16 RAs. And in my staff meetings, it's expected of me that I have professional development for my RAs, um, helping them identify the kind of RA that they want to be, for example. What I'm working on is kind of the prequel step to that. It's what's the work that the RAs are doing individually before coming to a staff meeting to engage in conversation. So there will be some pairings to offer to professional staff members to be able to have those conversations in staff meetings. And then sometimes it's just kind of like a blog post for RAs to read up on. So one of the very first one is like, why am I doing bulletin boards and door decks? That's an expectation that a lot of RAs have, or a lot of institutions have for RAs at the beginning of training. And we have our creative RAs, and then our RAs that are like, I'm so much better at other things. Please do not give me any butcher paper. And so giving them kind of a different lens on, oh, like there's kind of a method to the madness in this world of residence life. I think that's the insight that I'm trying to go for. Um, I I think it's easy. A good way to think of it is like that analogy of a 4-year-old consistently asking the question why. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And so I'm hopeful that the developments that I'm offering them or that I'm creating for them is giving them an understanding like, this is why it's important to have good customer service skills. And this is how I can have those skills. This is why like I should be developing my leadership skills because what I gain from this role is going to be transferable to, uh, whatever career path I choose after I leave college. So there, some of the content will come out while they are in training, yes, but it's not training oriented. It's more, think of like a subscription to a weekly, I don't know, blog post specifically for RAs tailored to their development.
Yeah, I guess yeah, my brain I'm just trying to think of like the application because I think it's great in thinking of like, yeah, like where best it fits in and I guess it's good that you're sort of intending a sense of sort of flexibility in its application where it's like, it's coming out during this time, feel free to use it, but it can sort of serve as both sort of a supplement or an augment to training and sort of give maybe that subtext or context or whatever background that, yeah, I mean, often maybe just overlooked. Like you're just in training and it's like, okay, we're just telling you how to do your job. Like we're not necessarily telling you why all these things are so important or whatever, but like we're just telling you, your expectations and everything. And then it could also be because obviously, yeah, like the uh, thing that's going to hamstring that emphasis, or all the effort that you're putting into training and you're emphasizing all these different things in training is like it's so much information in a short amount of time. So if it's like also having a tool that can help with sort of a continuation of like, hey, as a reminder, like customer service is important. Like, we talked about that in training and here's why. And what like it could just be that sort of vehicle or tool to keep that conversation going. So it's not just like, crammed into a week in August and then never talked about again or something. So yeah, I mean, I think that's it's really awesome. And I think just with what you're saying too, I was imagining that Paul is maybe kind of like one of the people who is uniquely suited as somebody who has his doctorate and has gone down that path, and also, is so immersed in the world of residence life and the practitioners out there and everything. Because obviously, they're both sort of two great tastes that taste even greater together of like the research and all that sort of like academic stuff and bringing in sort of the practitioner side of the work and everything. So how was that? I guess like working with him. Like, is it something where you know, was this an idea that you had or he had, or you sort of like were able to kind of workshop it together? Like, how did it sort of like blossom into what it became over the summer?
I think this has been, the posting on ACUHO-I, it was clear that there was going to be an RA development component. I had the fortunate opportunity to meet Paul in person at ACPA this past year. And so we kind of sat down and spoke of like all of these grand ideas of what this project would look like. And if I'm being very honest, you know, when I started, I had a completely different idea of what I was doing. And so it's definitely been a learning curve for me on putting, you know, revisiting my RA identity, I guess. It's been a while since I've been in RA. But I would definitely say, you know, Paul is a genius with his creativity. And he and I sit in spaces and we'll just go back and forth on all these ideas. And some of them come to fruition, some of them are we need to keep in our back pocket kind of thing for maybe another time. Um, but it's great working with him because as somebody that didn't have experience on like, you know, web design, for example, I would show him content and he would say, okay, well, and then this is where you can insert, refer back to this. And he would make it sound so eloquent. And I'd be like, why did I not come up with this the first time? But he's just really good at that stuff. And so it's been nice kind of relying on his expertise and creativity through this process. You know, he's pushed me a lot, whether or not he knows it, to really step outside of that academic comfort zone and be able to, I call it like be silly goofy, but in a professional way, humanize the experience, because it doesn't have to be, you know, in the RA role, you will develop exemplary customer service skills through serving your students, developing community, and, you know, XYZ. Instead, like having anecdotes that is really going to draw them in, he has challenged me to be better at that. And so I'm hopeful that that emanates through, you know, when RAs begin to engage in this content, they can read it and be like, oh, this is funny, this is good stuff to walk away with. But he's definitely influenced a lot of how this process has gone. I think where like my autonomy has been more of a focus on what do I think RAs need to know. For me, specifically, if I like close my eyes and think of my RA staff team currently, they have a lot of growth in their ability to ask for help. So how can I develop a reflection activity or a development tool that educates RAs that it's okay to ask for help, especially my students who, you know, find that to be very uncomfortable to do. Because I'm a firm believer that as a supervisor, if you ask for help, then you have the tools you need to be able to support your students. So how do we normalize that in a space where student leaders are often high achieving, and high achieving students are often nervous to ask for that support in the first place? So that's a long-winded way of saying um, working with Paul and working with the Roompact community period, because at the beginning of my internship I was shadowing sales, you know, rollout pitches and such. I got to sit in and learn about, you know, the creation of Roompact and hear from Matt on where the, you know, foundation of like where Roompact started and where it is now and where they're envisioning on going and such. So the beginning was a lot of insight of like who even is Roompact and what impact are they making on the field. And from that point on, it was like, okay, I guess in my brain, what impact do I want to leave? What mark do I want to leave when I am no longer in this internship role? Um, and so yeah, it's just been, I just have a lot of good things to say about this experience, merely because of the autonomy and creativity and like wealth of knowledge that truly like everyone in Roompact has to offer. So selfishly, I feel like it's been a great experience.
Well, that is very great to hear. As I've gotten to meet everybody, it definitely reinforced a lot of those feelings that you have, and because yeah, it's just a very unique and awesome group of people. But you know, you've already kind of answered this question. I'm curious, maybe just for like a quick hit, if you can think of something, because like obviously you did so many different little bits and pieces in addition to like that one big project that we've sort of been, you know, breaking down here. is there something like unexpected that you learned? Certainly from, I'm imagining maybe from like, shadowing sales or sort of the rollout pitches or something that you mentioned. Cause like that's obviously going to be an area where there's probably a lot to sort of learn, even just like kind of the basic 101 of sort of how that works. So if there's any just sort of quick hit anecdotes of like something that you learned maybe that was like unexpected.
Yeah, definitely. I would say in that realm, I didn't hang out in the technical side too much because that is not where my strengths are. Besides, while I'm developing what the site is going to look like and such. But in sales were fascinating to watch. And I feel very fortunate that I could sit in those spaces because I think there's just a delicate dance between a consumer of a product and a seller of a product of like, we have something to offer you. Are you interested? And then being like, yes, we are interested. But like, where I guess Roompact has this niche fit is like really focusing on if the fit is correct. It's not just about selling the product or selling the uh, software. It's about like, are we going to be a good partnership together? And I think that was like a very refreshing perspective to witness. And but sitting in those spaces and kind of really learning from other institutions what they're looking for, what their current practices are, how they would choose to use Roompact, and then sitting in on rollout meetings of people who are in different phases of implementation of Roompact and how they're going to choose to use it, and like features that they definitely want access to or ones that they're not going to use at all. The motivation behind getting Roompact, if I were to like synthesize it in a sentence, I guess, which feels complicated to do, is just access to a user friendly software that allows like daily housing practices and daily community building a little bit easier for those who work in a profession that can often it can be very complicated with managing all the different facets that it means to work in residence life. And so um, I think to me, like my biggest takeaway in sitting in those spaces is one, witnessing what it looks like to, engage in a sales call and what it looks like to um, talk about implementation and such. But it's just been like, what does the consumer need? What does the institution need? And that's fascinating, as a grad student, reflecting on where I currently am at and like silently comparing in my head, oh, how would I see this fitting like on my campus compared to like the needs of what I'm hearing them share. So hopefully that answers your question, but it's been a very sitting in those spaces and learning the processes that Roompact has to make sure that their customers or their partners have a great understanding of the product that they are going to use in the partnership that they're about to embark on. It's just evidently clear that Roompact puts like people first and such. So that has been very rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing for me too is like you may never sell technology to a university or college, but like you said, it's just you get sort of a unique insight and kind of behind the curtain. But then like it's just negotiating. It's trying to convince someone or persuasion. Like there's like aspects of it that I'm sure may sort of marinate for a while and come back up. Where it's just like like it's all humans working with humans, people working with people, and sort of just you know that like you said, like Roompact is I think a very people human centered organization, and that kind of comes to the fore when they're certainly trying to make sales and do those sort of things. But yeah, I mean it it's just a unique insight, and I think it's a good place to do it versus like that idea of other organizations would just be trying to sell by any means necessary. They just sort of hand it off, say good luck, and kind of move on. Versus like, I mean, if this isn't going to be a good working relationship, then like neither of us are going to be satisfied. So let's try to, explore that a bit. But uh, yeah, so I think that's really awesome to hear. And I think if there's other, maybe more like fun, like memories or anything? I guess I'm sure how, um, the summer got up, and I guess I'm glad that you got to meet Paul at ACPA. That's good. And I know they were, celebrating like the 10th anniversary at ACUHO-I and everything. But yeah, just any favorite fun memories of working at Roompact over these past couple of months?
When I was first onboarded, we did a fun mozzarella cheese pulling situation. Um, Happy to report that I will not be joining the cheese pulling industry because I think everyone would be disappointed at my lack of inability to, or at my inability to successfully pull mozzarella. But just like team builders like that. Recently, we were on a meeting call, and I guess when they were at ACPA, they had a retreat where they did some glass blowing, and so I got to look at all of their great glass blown pieces. Some resembled birds, others resembled blobs, and we kind of laughed about it. And so right before this call, I actually got a message, and I think I'll be receiving one in the mail. So I'm excited to see, if I get a blob or bird. But yeah, I don't know. I think like holistically, it's been like I've just felt very welcomed on the team. I sit in, all the team meetings and such. They ask if I have any questions or if I've had like anything that I need to contribute in terms of my updates. But, I think it's been cool to be able to work and then also experience the human side of Kassidy throughout the summer. So I had the opportunity to do some travel, took some meetings while I was traveling and such. Um, and that kind of sparked like different creative outlets as well. I was able to go up to my alma mater, who's actually a user of Roompact, and be able to kind of, walk campus and feel nostalgic and stuff and sit in that space again. So, in terms of like great experiences. It's been a mixture of feeling welcomed as a team member, as well as being able to still have like personal experiences while I, refuel myself for a new semester back at Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask and make sure. Because I know I asked if you're going to get up to any kind of fun stuff over the summer, so it's good to know that was able to fit in with everything else. And I think, yeah, I mean, good that it felt like it kind of balanced, where like because I think it's always that tough thing where it's like if you just we're hanging out doing nothing over summer. It's like that's not wasted time, as they do. Like, oh, I don't want to waste my summer. I want to like, work or do whatever else. So it's like, you'd want it to be like, well, I don't want to just work. I want to be able to like work and still have a summer. Yeah, I'm glad that, it was all able to fit in, to some extent. So it wasn't all work and no play or anything like that. But so yeah, I mean, I think the last question I have is that, I know you're in your doctorate program and everything, but just like what's next for you? It's a new academic year and everything that entails. But if you want to kind of just give kind of a Cliff Notes version of what's next for you.
Oh, what a hard question. Cliff Notes version. I know. What am I doing? Cliff Notes version of what tentatively comes next, and I'm saying tentatively because I reserve the right to change my mind. Um, is I'll go back to Texas. I will take all my classes. I'll continue to go to conferences, continue to do research, continue to support RAs in their development, be able to, take some of the stuff I did this summer and hopefully be a good product of, my own learning that I did this summer and kind of infuse it into my work and such. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm either proceeding down this doctorate path or I am, you know, seeking out, I guess, other opportunities. And I guess I'm just trying to figure that out. And other opportunities would look like potentially full time while doing doctorate work and such. But, oftentimes in the field, there is a conundrum of, if you go straight through from your master's to your PhD, do you have enough experience to do administrative work? For example, or, if you go straight through, are you focused on a faculty route and such? And so I'm in a unique spot where I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do. Luckily, I feel like I have a lot of experience. Before I even went into my master's program, I taught in the local school district for about 2 years. Then I got my master's, and I was just like, darn, I'm not done learning. But now I'm kind of in a unique crossroads of really enjoying, working with Roompact and being on that practitioner side, but also getting that taste of like doing research, I guess, but in a more like human light. That's the only way how I know how to describe it. So you hit me with a question that I've been pondering all summer on what comes next, which is why I'm being sensitive about it, merely because I'm not too sure. But I know it'll continue to be in the realm of higher education. I know for now it'll continue to be in the realm of residence life. And I know for now that come mid-August, I will be sitting in a classroom of some sort. And so I'm just trying to figure out, do I continue as a full-time student? Do I continue as a full-time employee, part-time student? And I'm really engaging in my own reflection and growth process of what's going to be best for me. What does my future look like? Because that continues to evolve and change. And I don't feel bad about that because I know people change their minds all the time. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I'm figuring it out and just taking it one day at a time, as opportunities arise and as I reflect on what's best for me.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really sure. I guess I was like, oh, what's next? It might just be a sort of a lighthearted question, but that, it's a very, authentic, genuine, and really, kind of just real, raw answer, which I appreciate your candor. Because yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like my own journey, I know that I'll always work in higher ed in some capacity, so it's just a matter of like what that capacity is. And it's been for several years not on a campus, and I don't know if it ever will again, but just that like open-mindedness, or sort of even just that that slight kind of like germ of idea of like, okay, like there could be other good ways to sort of go about this, not just sort of give up on a goal that you earnestly do want to accomplish of your doctorate and those sort of things, and like try to get the best of both worlds, and just yeah, try to see how everything can fit together. But uh yeah, I mean, knowing, you know, like you said, I mean, people have uh, gone down these paths many times before, and not try to make yourself as sort of like a, exception, in the sense of sort of reinforcing that it's like, it's okay and all that. And just kind of, yeah. So I guess in that sense, there's just a world of opportunities before you. And that is very exciting. And I think, yeah, knowing kind of the openness that you have to pursue kind of unique working opportunities like this internship and everything, I think definitely speaks to your sort of ambition, or just sort of like, that there may be even more available to you, or that you're even just aware of, than other folks who might be feeling like they are sort of locked in. So I think it, folks like yourself who do a ACUHO-I internship at a company like Roompact, I think just have a lot of respect from me. Like you're really kind of taking a little bit of a leap of faith, but I think it can really create some great learning opportunities, just like, personally, professionally, and then just sort of, more kind of technically or kind of mechanically, and what the actual work is, like any internship. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm sure we'll be, seeing you out at conferences like you said, or maybe just still kicking around the Roompact blog, or who knows what else. But just thank you so much for, hanging out for these 2 podcast episodes, and for all the great work that you've done for Roompact over the summer. And yeah, just hope you have a good rest of your summer, and a good start to the year coming up here soon.
Thanks so much.